Today we are only going to talk about the third exercise. This is because last time I had mistaken myself in time. Ta-da! And in the time that it took to talk about the first and the second exercise together. And I do not want to rush things by doing too much in too little time. Understanding qigong needs patience. So I apologize that the last time took so long. It was totally my mistake, as sometimes I forget that people need to take a break, need to sleep, need some time to think things over, and so on. Well, it's an old habit of mine. Many years ago, my teacher once took me aside after assisting him in one of his classes, and he said that I explained too much. I understand that you want to make these people good, he said, but you cannot pull the grass out of the ground. It won't grow faster by doing so. So today, no grass pulling. But hey, don't worry, there is plenty to say about this third exercise. So here it is, qigong number 3, 是子包球. The name. The name of this third exercise has no hidden meaning, or that is to say, it does not have any for the Chinese. 是子包球 means the lion holds a ball and is a reference to the Chinese lion dance. Now for us in the West, a Chinese lion dance is just that, but to the Chinese there are many types, styles and sorts of lion dance. All the differences can, however, be included in two main streams, the northern and the southern school. The world is mostly familiar with the southern school of lion dance. This is because the spread of the Chinese over the world started with the Chinese people from South and Southeast China. Traditionally, the southern lion is not really a lion, but a mythical monster called Nian. This Nian lion has one horn, and the movements are derived from the Kung Fu school, which performs the lion dance. A northern lion has no horn, but manes. Since the northern lion dance is often performed by two lions, you can tell the difference between the male lion, which has red manes, whereas the female lion sometimes has green manes. There is another difference as well. Where the southern lion dance consists of one lion, the northern lion dance is very often performed by 3 lions. One male, one female, and a baby lion. How cute. Besides these 3 lions, there is a man person, and this man person has a red face mask to show that he is very, very drunk and behaving like an idiot. That is because he is taking away the ball that a male lion holds. And with that ball, he is aggravating the lions. First the male, then the female on the other side, and so on. This movement is exactly the movement of this third qigong exercise, and that is why it is called the lion holds a ball. Although, of course, it is not actually the lion holding the ball, but the man person. Before he gets eaten, that is. By the way, a totally non-related fun fact of the lion dance is that the Chinese word for lion back in ancient times originally was Swanni. Only later it became 狮子, and this is probably to do with the non-Chinese origin of lions, as the word 狮子 probably derives from the Persian word for lion, sir, which all lovers of Mowgli immediately will recognize in the name of the evil tiger in that story, Shere Khan. Well, back to the Chinese lion, it is considered a symbol of power and good fortune. And as a sacred animal, it has the powers of protection and to drive away evil. It is a guardian, and as guardians, the lions act in pairs. The male lion is always sitting with his paw on a ball. The female lion is playing with her cub and trying to keep the naughty little bastard in line. So also in mythology, there is an association between lions and the bull. Now it is important to consider this. It is the male lion holding the bull. Why is that an important fact? Because it tells us that this exercise amplifies a yang aspect in the larger picture. And we know this for a fact since the name of the exercise, which is almost the same, exercise number 6, is Feng Huang Yao Tou, the phoenix shakes its head. And the phoenix is a yin animal. I do not want to get ahead of things, but for now let's notice this important difference, as it tells us that these two exercises might seem almost the same, but they are not. One is more yang, the other is more yin in comparison to one another. Does this make this third exercise a yang qi exercise? No, as I said, the yin-yang difference is in comparison to one another. This comparison can only be made in the larger picture of exercise 1 to 10. But for now, we are caught up in the story that is told by exercise 1 to 4. So at this time, it does not yet bear any meaning. In fact, as an exercise in itself, it actually brings yin and yang together. This is not implied by the name. It comes forth from two things. The first of these two is the shape of the arm positions. The stretched out roundness, round but stretched out, amplifies yang on the outside and yin, when positioned correctly, on the inside. It is yang holding, enveloping yin. The bringing together of yang and yin is also explained to us by the from left to right movement of the exercise. The male lion, yang, on one side, and the female, yin, on the other side. And the person holding the ball is going from this one to that one and the other way around. He is connecting yang to yin, making it a yin and yang neutral exercise. Now in our body there are only two meridians that are neutral, yin and yang, wise spoken. The Jumai and the Daimai. And these are the two meridians that this exercise is all about. Well, that's the introduction. So now let's do something, because now we have to study the movement in itself and its peculiarities. And that starts, of course, with how does the movement go physically. Let's put the chair away and get off my lazy ass. Well, how does the movement go? You know the third qigong. Yes, it goes up to the side, rolls this side, that side, rolls again, and then it stops. It does not stop there, but that's the end of one phase of the third exercise. Physically spoken, the third exercise is the most difficult one that we have. They are very complicated movements, but they are not difficult. You only have to learn to memorize them, but you can feel them relatively easy and so on. But the third exercise and the sixth exercise are the two most difficult exercises that we have, and it takes years to get them physically in line. And the physical part is really, really important because, yeah, well, again, you know, my usual comparison to a garden hose, where water flows through. The garden hose has to be clean on the inside, otherwise the water can't flow, and so on. All types of comparisons. And one thing that is really, really important in this third qigong is where does the movement come from? Where does it not come from? And that means that we have to physically learn to disconnect and to work to acknowledge our body in layers. And this is where we switch to the other camera for the beautiful drawing that I have made, a true Rembrandt. And I notice a very sad thing, because he has no face, and every circle needs a friend, so allow me. Now he has a nose. Okay, what does this mean? First of all, yeah, I'm switching cams. First of all, the arms. What is important in the arms is that they are not two arms, they are one circle. In Chinese there is this phrase, especially in Chinese wushu, through the back. It means a lot of things, it means a lot of different things, always context dependent. For instance, in Tai Chi we have a movement, where you evade through the back. But it's not my back, it's the back of the opponent. So he punches with his right arm. I connect to his wrist, I connect, and he's still moving in. And yes, my arms are a circle, so I rotate, and here I have him on the shoulder. I guide myself behind him, he is falling through. Now I am behind his back, so there I lean on his back, and that's evading through the back. And yes, there is always a double meaning in these technical names, as I have explained in my wonderful book, Buy It. Well, that's a joke, don't buy it. Yeah, do buy it. But anyway, there we come to the energetic part of Shan Tong Bei, meaning that the energy goes through the back. And in this case, it connects the arms. If you look at the Kung Fu style Shan, meaning the Kung Fu style Tong Bei chant, it is always one arm and then the other. It always connects these two arms as one whole, through the back. Meaning that you do not have two arms, you have one circle. If you practice this while standing, which is very well possible, and one of the things you do, and which is a part of standing, you always hear me say soften the back, soften the neck, open the head, sink in the dantian. Open the neck is a difficult one, and we'll get to that more often than only now. But it includes the shoulder blades as well. And if you stand in a position like this, you sit on your legs, you don't stand, you sit on your legs, but then you have the palms active. I've already talked about the proper hand position, the proper wrist position, open up the joints, and so on and so on. One thing I haven't talked about a lot is open up the shoulder blades. And that does not mean that you must spread them, it means that you must become aware of the space between the shoulder blades and the rib cage. And then you connect that with the palms. And you might feel, if you search for a moment, it's not that difficult. You don't have to feel wondrous things. Oh, my shoulder blades fly away from my chest. No, please don't. But by focusing yourself on the space between your shoulder blades and the rib cage, and at the same time the palms of your hands, the top of your head, well, you tell me what the result is. So, but that's an important thing, and that's the openness you're searching and what you're trying to connect, that openness between both shoulder blades. If you connect them, then you have connected the arms, and that's a Tong Bei. And it makes the arms into one circle. Now, the body itself, the torso, can be considered a pipe. And there is a problem with that pipe, because if we move, and this we will encounter when learning the third qigong, then we will move like this. Watch my, what you call this thing? Anyway, watch this. And then you see that it makes diagonals, in diagonal folds. And it should not. Why does it make diagonal folds? Well, in the external principles of Tai Chi, I talk about this. And you want to prevent that you move like these toilet rolls on a stick, where one toilet roll can rotate and the other can not, or rotates the other side. But that's exactly what happens. I like another color. And now I switch cameras again. So actually, if this is the pipe where the arm circle rests on, then we are usually, this is below the rib cage, where we have the possibility to move, and you do not want that. Don't do that. So this should be totally connected. So now you have this arm circle fixed and connected on the body. Where does that end? Well, this is where the drawing is not totally correct, but symbolic. Actually, it should go over that ball, because of course that pipe is our entire torso until just up to the bottom of our body. Of course, the head is properly aligned, but now what you can see, this is the dantian. And now it's very, very important to realize that when we talk about the dantian, we talk about something totally different than what a Nedan person talks about at our stage of practice. Yes, we are not that good. That means that if we just can relax the abdomen and we can meditate on it, and then eventually it will feel like if there is a ball inside, and we call that the dantian. Actually, it is not, but we can work with that. Yes, and that's this. Now what you get is that you actually want that pipe to connect with that ball, but what is the fact is you see that ball resting in a bowl. A ball in a bowl. And that one side is higher is on purpose, because actually this represents our pelvis, the hip bones. And at the front there's the pubic bone, which is there, and at the back the end of the hip bones is higher than the pubic bone. We'll get to that. Now we have this problem of movement. Namely, that when we move, when we rotate our body while our feet maintain a fixed position, then we tend to connect the ball to the legs. Now, switch cameras please, this camera. That means that when I rotate the body, the hips follow the rotation. I have my hands on my hips, so you don't need a lower view. So the hips follow that rotation, and that is where we go wrong in the third qigong. Like I said, it's really, really difficult, but what you want is that this becomes the stand. It's stable. It has a dent in it, and the ball lies there, and the pipe, this pipe, connects to the ball. So what you get, we change colors again, just because I like it. What you want is this to connect. Well, like that, through the black, back to black. That. This is what you want to have as a whole, to experience as a whole. That means that when you sit on your legs, you can't rotate very far. Actually, you can't even rotate as soon as you are really, really vertical. Soften the back and so on. When you rotate to the side, then the hip joints will cling to the dantian, and they will follow the rotation. So how do you solve this? By slightly falling forward. So you rotate yourself slightly forward, and you know the sentence, feel but don't show. So if I fall forward and you can actually see it, then it's too far. And then I will feel it too much on a physical level. But in the beginning, it's fine if you go that far. You have to search and you have to start somewhere. So you go slightly forward with a relaxed abdomen, of course, and with a bit of luck, where you see my little finger there, with a bit of luck, you can feel this line there. And you can follow that line, you can swing along that line with your abdomen. Yes, of course, the head moves because it's connected to the abdomen, but it's the abdomen rolling through that curved line. That's what you're looking for. Yeah. If you are trying this at home and somebody walks in, then they'll think you're a complete idiot because it looks really, really weird. But it's quite relaxing actually. You're just going there. It's like a wave-like motion. Really nice. And really important because now we have only had the front part. Now, previously I stated that there are only two meridians in our body that are really yin and yang neutral. The Chungmai going through the center. Where is its yin and yang? Well, if it overflows, it's so full, then it overflows in the Renmai and Dumai, and the Renmai and Dumai, the Renmai at the front, the Dumai at the back, they are considered the yin and the yang of the Chungmai. But the Chungmai in itself is yin and yang neutral. Is that important to us? Yes, that's very important. That's why you keep straight. And you open, on the inside, you open the Chungmai. It governs all yin and yang in that manner. The Daimai is the belt meridian. The Daimai is the only meridian in the body that does not follow the length of our body, but goes like this. A girdle, a belt, whatever, pick a word, the Dai. So now a belt hangs, especially in the old days. That means that you can actually physically follow the line of the Daimai. It's the only meridian that even if you're not practiced in sensing meridians, that you can just follow because you start crosswise on top of your hip bone. I have a bit of a corona muscle on this side, so you go between your corona muscle and the hip bone. And then you can just follow the hip bone going down, then in front of the pubic bone, inside of the hip bone on top, over the hip bone, and then here it connects in a straight line to the other side. That's the trajectory of the Daimai. And that's the meridian that this third exercise is all about. Now we are still at a physical level, so the energetic part we'll get to later. What do you do with, what does the Daimai do? The Daimai does two things. It holds all meridians together like a straw around a bundle of twigs. Yeah, well, that's the comparison classically made. That's one thing, it holds us together. The second thing is it allows communication, because all these vertical lines, it's a bit like the tram system in The Hague. They all go jing, 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 but it's very difficult to get from one tram to the other because there is no connection in between. But our body has thought of this. It has the Daimai. So all these meridians can energetically transport, communicate by means of the Daimai. That makes the Daimai, well, the second most important meridian in our body, amongst other reasons. What you are actually doing in this manner is quite un-qigong-like, because qigong usually wants to relax, open up, and the meridians open, and then by movement you allow the qi to flow. And if you're really, really well advanced, then you can be aware of the speed of the qi circulation and you connect to the speed of the qi. That's for those who can walk on clouds. For us, common folk, we have this exercise like in the Daimai, where we push the water through the garden hose by pinching the garden hose and qi. That's how we push the water through forward. That means that if you go slightly forward to your right side, like you've just practiced, then you might feel that if you relax, the body just falls all by itself. That ball rolls all by itself. You don't have to make a movement, just allow gravity. Gravity is your friend. But that means that you constantly actually pinch that meridian. It works a bit like a roller coaster. So you start high there. That's why you start at the right side. And then you allow the cart to drop. There it goes. And it will roll, and then it will go up and slower and slower and slower, and then it still has just enough speed to topple the next hill. And that's quite an accurate comparison. And that's how you put the Daimai into motion, because the extra meridians have no movement in them, within them. They are lakes. There is no movement there. But you make movement. The Daimai. So what you get is, you start at the right side, you fall, you rotate, then you get over the top. Then slightly you fall back and you roll, and then you fall back again, and then it's at the end of its speed and it will fall the other way, like that. So this is too much movement with the body. That's too wild for the qi. And that is why we use the arms. There are many reasons why the arms have this shape, and why the shape should be exactly like this and not like that or there or whatever. The main reason, our body is a container of our energy. It sets the boundaries for our the energetic being that we are. But if we misuse the body, then we actually harm that energetic being. You want to be open, full, and round. So you want to move here, not there, like this. It has to stay nice and open. We will get to that in a moment, because we're still at the physical part. So once you actually can do this type of roll through the hip bowl. Now if you have these arms forward, you will fall after the weight of your arms. They are at your right side, so you will fall slightly to the right. But then you fall like this. And this happens all by itself. Watch how the hands change height, which is a very important thing, because now I have the same roll, but my other arm is on top, meaning that the weight distribution has shifted. So now I automatically get a break while going uphill, there, because this arm now is on top. Had this arm still been on top, then I would have made that circle again. But it's not. It's the other arm on top, so I slow down, and then I fall back again. It actually works a bit like a perpetual mobile. So there you go, and you continue to fall. There I fall again. Again, change height. So here I slow down. I follow the weight of my upper arm, so I fall that way. And then it continues, the story continues like that. Again, the arms have changed height. And I fall and I bounce back. Actually, I do not bounce, you roll uphill, but you won't make it to the top, so you roll back. That's the idea, and that's why it's really, really important to have that capability of not rotating with the hips, not half a millimeter. That's already too much. There should be no movement at all, and the hips should be connected to the legs, not to the center. The center, not to the hips, but to the torso. So what you get is that the entire pipe has a round bottom in the bowl of the hips, and the entire pipe rotates like a drum. And that's the physical part of the third qigong. There are other aspects in this physical point of view. For instance, the arms. Make sure there's a problem, and I see it always when somebody new learns the third qigong. Eyes deceive us. Our understanding deceives us. We only can see what we already understand, and here you have to do something that you do not yet understand. Yes, you of course, by now you do, but when you started, I had to correct you as well. I had to correct myself in the beginning as well. What am I talking about? That the movement goes sideways. We see the arms going to the side, so we translate, oh, you have to go to the side, and you have to go to the side, and you have to flip a pancake, and then to the side, grill, like that. First of all, it's disconnected. If it's not connected to the torso, it's not connected to the center. Second of all, you don't go to the side at all. Every qigong movement where the arms go up like the very first time that they went up. They go forward. The first qigong, here, and you continue. The third qigong, same. What's the difference? This. And that's sideways enough for this to happen. So there is no going sideways in this third qigong. You go forward. Then, now we're still at the physical level. Last time we've talked about these two cogwheels rotating together. Yeah? The trunk and the upper arm, like that. That is a very, very important rule in this third qigong. So you move up. There. And actually I have almost invisibly turned to the right. That is not only to make a better starting position, but it's also because otherwise I can't get my arms up at the right side. Watch my shoulder discs. So from here, now I keep the torso still. And then you can see what happens here. And again, try this yourself. Yeah? So you just stand there, keep this flat, forward, still, don't move. Only the upper arms rotate. I hope you can feel how there is a rotation in both shoulder discs. Now you don't want to feel that shoulder disc rotation. The SDR, you don't want to feel the SDR. Let's talk American, let's talk with abbreviations. No, we don't. But that means, and that is why I have to connect. That is why it goes like this. And you might notice that it's hardly visible. You see it because now you know. But have you ever seen it before? then you fall. Here you go uphill, there. And yes, this is a breaking of the rules, where the torso rotates, but the upper arm does not. Why is that? It builds up tension. Because now the torso rotates, and again the shoulder discs make the upper arm rotate in line with the rotation of the torso. Then a breaking of the rules again, because here we want gravity to do its full work and to build up some tension. An unpracticed person will not feel that, but we are all that good. We can feel, oh yes, it feels a bit tense. I have to release. So there you go again. Yes, so these are the two main physical points of attention, that the body being a whole, like that, no loose arms, but an arm circle, fixed and connected on the torso, connected to the dantian, and the dantian being round, lies in a bowl of the hips and the legs. Again, why is that side higher? Because this is higher than this. And that is why we can actually slightly fall forward. We can slightly topple. Okay, that is about the physical part. Yes, this has to be free, this has to be connected, and this has to rotate. Well, together. Have I checked? I have to check. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Chi. Oh, chi. Yes, chi. Okay. Well, in the Wudang Qigong, we have this. Actually, it's 18 exercises, but we only practice 10 of them usually. And that's because these 10, well, they teach us what is relevant, and the other exercises play with what is being taught. But we have other types of movement like Tai Chi or Dit to do the same thing. But these 10 exercises, eventually, they teach us the heavenly orbit. We won't really be able to perform the heavenly orbit because we move too much in Qigong. But it teaches us how it works, where to open, how to open up, how to facilitate, and so on. So it's actually a preschool. Without this type of schooling, it will be very, very difficult to open up that heavenly orbit in a proper manner. I know of these schools and these teachers who advertise with come learn with me and we start this course in the heavenly orbit. Well, I think it's ill-advised to follow a class like that. It makes you sick. This is a very important thing to understand. I've talked about it previously, but I will repeat this now again. And always the comparison to a nice river in Spain. In the summer, there is hardly any water in the river, and you see the rocks on the riverbed. In winter, the river is nice and full, and it flows with a lot of power. We want to first become a river in a Spanish winter. If you start with this heavenly orbit practice, while you have not performed the build-up exercises to do so, then you are like a river in the Spanish summer. Little water, a lot of rocks, bam, 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 all the water, it will flow. But you will encounter and worsen the stagnations, you will make yourself sick. And I notice it in my practice as an acupuncturist, where I sometimes get these people, I don't feel any energy, things like that. And if you continue to ask, then they will, it's 9 out of 10. They answer me that they practice qigong. They already, I want to give them an exercise. Oh, I already practice qigong. Oh, where? Well, I'm not going to mention any names here in video, but it's always the same mainstream, where they go too fast and too ill-schooled. The teachers are teaching without any knowledge. So it makes people sick. That's a shame. Well, anyway, back to qi, the relation to the heavenly orbit of this third exercise. Yes, like I said, qigong 1 to 10 prepares us for practice of the heavenly orbit. 1 to 4 we have as a first segment, where 1 to 3 prepare for number 4, exercise number 4. We will talk about exercise number 4 next week. This number 4, if you remember, is the small heavenly orbit. So the yang rises over the back, over the head, in the mouth, and then the yin goes down at the front, underneath the body, and so on. The limbs do not take part, only the head, but the arms and the legs do not take part in this circulation. Then you get the 5th exercise, which is an in-between exercise to reconnect the limbs to the energetic, whatever we are doing. And 6 to 9 prepare us for number 10. And in number 10, we practice the large heavenly orbit, where the limbs do take part. Why is this relevant for number 3? Well, number 3, and later on number 6, number 3 does this thing where we have, in the first exercise, I have to recapitulate, in the first exercise we practiced to facilitate the yang, rising over the back. If you practice the first exercise, and you don't get a warm and sweaty back, then continue to practice the first exercise. Then the second exercise, descending the yin. Always facilitating, because the yin will go down all by itself. So now what does the third exercise do? It brings them together in a really, really peculiar manner. It has nothing to do with the idea of the traditional Chinese medicine, where this daimai, being a very thin meridian, connects all these meridians like I said, like a straw which wraps around a bundle of twigs. No, sir. What is important is the difference between fire and water. Fire below, the water above. That is, if we are healthy, that is our body. And you can notice this balance between fire and water relatively easy, because now I said fire below and the water above, which is wrong. I should have said it the other way around. Water below, fire above that. If there is not enough water, then the fire can go like that, and you will not be able to sleep. You will be thinking, oh, this and that, very busy in the head. On the other hand, if there is too much water, then there will be no fire at all, and it will be dull and a bit like that. You will feel really weird in the head. The balance has to be right. Now, this fire is a thing that we use a lot, because fire associates with yang qi. And the yang qi is where we start with when we want to work on our qi practice, because it's relatively easy. It's relatively accessible. Yin qi is really, really difficult to access directly. Takes years of meditation. Yang qi, a few weeks, and hey, I feel good. Yes, so now this is what we use in the third exercise with the daimai. And here we can find that the dynamite is not that line that traditional Chinese medicine teaches us. And actually, it's not traditional Chinese medicine that teaches us that. It's a Frenchman who brought Chinese medicine to the West around 1900 and who drew all these lines and said, this is what we call meridians. Chinese never talked about meridians, and the ancient acupuncture dolls do not have lines, they only have dots. And for the rest, you can figure out how does it go. You will, because you practice, you know. So forget these lines. What happens is we have a supporting exercise, fire standing. And now I'll change the camera because we won't be using the board anymore. The end of the art. So, oh. Can you see my legs? Not good enough yet. I should have practiced this before and making some dots on the floor. But fire standing. You sit on your legs and the level should be that the knee joint and the hip joint are at the same height. Then you sit straight up, not forward, but straight up. You soften the back as much as possible. You soften the neck. Yeah. You align yourself looking at the side, as always, ear above shoulder, above hip joint, above ankle joint. So the butt does not protrude. Meaning, it's a horse stance exercise. And I want some space, please. Mr. Circleman, out of the way. Good. So here we are, where you sit. Low. Relax the back, relax the neck. And the arms are at a height where they feel as if they hang over a large ball. I see in the camera that my hip looks higher than the knee. I can assure you it is not. Open the shoulders, open the neck, open the head, soften the abdomen. Now, we won't do this too long. I'll be honest, I can sit like this for 3 minutes. I can sit for this for 3 minutes and then I collapse. Yeah. Of course, you can practice this and practice this until you can sit like that for 20 minutes or 2 hours, like the Shaolin monks. But then it loses its function. In what manner can it lose its function? Do you remember the Baro and Jin that we sometimes practice? The stretching of the meridians, things like that. If you practice that too much, then your meridians and your tendons will lose their elasticity. So you will have to go further. And if you do that too much, then it will lose its elasticity. And then again, you will have to go further again. And eventually, you will end up with your foot in your neck to just be able to stretch the meridian. So don't do it too much. With this position, it's a fire position, the same thing applies. It is all about awakening the fire. When you were sitting, did you feel yourself getting warm? That's the function. That's the first function of this exercise. So, the position on top is like this. Where it's comfortable. If you have the arm slightly too low, then you will feel, I feel heavy, I feel the joints, or I feel the muscles, or whatever, or I feel my neck. So you have to have this height. It's actually over the head, that height. It feels, to me at least, like I'm contacting the field around me with the outside of my arms. But at the same time, I'm hanging over a large ball in front of me. And I'm positioning myself right in between these two sensitivities, these two awarenesses. So I don't really feel that field, I don't really feel that ball. I use them as a reference to find the in-between. And that is where I fall down, soften the back, soften the neck, open the head, and sink in the dantian. If you're really bored, then you can apply the shoulder blade thing as well. So loosen the shoulder blades away from the ribs, from the rib cage, and connect that openness to the palms of the hands and the top of the head. Good. Not too long, because for now it's enough to know. What is important to realize, to discover, is that you get really hot on sitting in that position. And the proper physical alignment guides the heat. Like that. Would you have standing more like this, then all heat would go to the top of the head. You can experiment with that. Yeah? So the proper positioning is really important. There is some free space where you can search, where you can play, but it's not much. And as soon as you change position, then you will feel the heat going to another direction. Now, what's important in this exercise, that it helps us with the third qigong. It awakens the fire. What does fire do in the body? Well, it boils away the skin from the flesh. That's not nice, poetic, but that's what it does. When you want to pluck the feathers from a chicken, and you throw it in boiling water. Now we are actually boiling ourselves with that extreme position. And what you are looking for, and you will find it first in the arms, the rest of the body is actually quite difficult. And then mainly the yang side of the body, the yin side again, is quite, is a step further. It's not impossible, but it's a bit more difficult. So first look on the outside of the body, the yang side, and try to feel how heat maneuvers itself in between the skin and the flesh. So again, please. You sit, soften the back, soften the neck, open the head, open the shoulders, connect the palms with the shoulder blade space and the open head. And feel. Maybe you want to adjust the movement a little bit. Good. Not too long. Because so much to do, so little time. So there, now we have this sensation of the skin, of empty space. Let me rephrase this. Now we have an awareness of empty space between the skin and the flesh. In Chinese medicine, they call this free space the zodoende. Very important, and we'll get to talk about that later. In our approach, we have to go back a few steps to the level system of qi, where there is the dantian, then the extra meridians, then the organ meridians, the capillary meridians, skin, flesh, bones, and so on. It all wraps around one another. Now what you get is that the dantian, there's only one dantian. Around that is a layer of 8 extra meridians. But only one can communicate with the qi of the dantian. That's the one laying directly around the dantian. That's the zhongmai. Through the center it pumps the dantian. You can compare this to radio frequencies, where the frequency of the zhongmai is almost the same. It is different, but it's almost the same to the dantian, so it can communicate. Then the frequency changes and changes and changes, and on the outside, the one holding everything together, on the outside there is the daimai. And the daimai, like I said, is not this line. That's its basic trajectory. This is true, but it's not only that. This is where the daimai connects to the organ meridian, the sanjiao. The sanjiao, the triple warmer meridian, is, well, it's of course a meridian, but it's also an organ that does not exist. It's just a bundle of functions. And one of the functions is it controls the empty space in our body. It is like the road workers maintaining our motorways, and so that the motorway is always well tarred, and it's clean and fresh and things like that, so that the cars, when they come, can easily pass through. So that's what the sanjiao does. One of the things that the sanjiao does, it controls this empty space. It controls it solely because there is more empty space than only between skin and flesh. There is also empty space in between the intestines, in between the organs, and so on. For us, with a different approach, an approach tending toward the Medan approach, we work with 3 levels of free space. The free space, which the most easily accessible, is the one we are practicing with now, is the free space between flesh and skin. The next one being the free space between flesh and bone. That's a bit difficult, different practice. And then the last one is the free space between the dantian and the rest of us. That's for way later. Now back to this connection of that supplementary exercise, the fire standing, to the third exercise. The supplementary exercise teaches you to be aware of that open space. Now, if you perform this third exercise, while being aware of that open space, then you can have only one position. Because if you're too low, you're too high, you're too much to the side there or there, then you cannot open, you cannot free up the skin away from the flesh. So there you are, performing the third exercise just as you did before. You allow it to fall. Now when you rotate up, if you want to maintain the free space, then there is this type of rotation as well. You should actually have a top-down view, where you can see how I rotate my dantian in between the hip bones. But now I rotate like this. And that's when I have my skin, when I have this access to this free space between skin and flesh, then it will start to spiral. And the back of my head and the outside of my arms make one peak. So that's how it should feel, and then it spirals out to the hands. There I fall. Then I go back. I still maintain that openness between flesh and skin. And now the movement does not start here. Yes, I rotate up, but the extra swing starts here. Only I'm not allowed to feel it. So if I move this, then there will come a point where I will feel my wrists. So I have to move the entire body to not feel the wrists. And that's how I actually, again, outside of my arms, the back of my head and neck, how I spiral down. Now I have spiraled down to this height. And when I continue, I can't fall forward too far because then my flesh touches my skin. And now I am wrapped around the dantian. You know, this belt that motorcyclists wear to protect the kidneys. It feels a bit like that. It engulfs, it wraps this, but then around the entire body. It's like you're a mummy. Not a mummy, a mummy. Just clarifying. So now I've spiraled out to the hands. I fall back. And the spiral starts with the hands. Now I exaggerate. Yes, it shouldn't be this visible. And then the rest of the body, top to bottom, follows the rotation. And there everything is finished. And I fall. So what you get is that this third exercise opens up the daimai, chi-wise spoken, but not the daimai as a narrow band, but all free space between flesh and skin on the yang side of the body. How does that relate to the heavenly orbit? Well, this is a bit of theory, but we are not in a position to practice the heavenly orbit. Not if you want to practice it while doing qigong, because qigong moves too much. For practicing the heavenly orbit, you have to sit. But, like I said in the beginning, this qigong helps us to understand the heavenly orbit. Now there is another thing with this heavenly orbit. There are layers. Of course, there is the renmai and the dumai. This is a talk in itself. I'll save that for later, but because there is a difference between what Chinese medicine appears to say about the direction of the meridians and what the Taoist Neidan says about it. But like I said, we'll talk about that later. For now, it's just accept that rotation idea. And what you get is that there are layers where we can facilitate and open up the dumai, and we can facilitate and open up the renmai. That's what we've just done in the first and the second exercise. We cannot, at our level, we cannot complete that circulation through these meridians, but we can do that on a layer a bit higher, a bit away from the body. We can do that like, imagine like you move the wind around your body. So now with the hands close to the body in the fourth exercise, with the hands close to the body, I pull up the air at the back of my body, and so I generate some wind, and here I have to blow it exactly over my head, and there at the front of my face and my chest and my abdomen, I circulate wind around my body. That's a layer as well. The layer we are talking about right now is the layer of the daimai, in between skin and flesh. And that is the layer that is difficult word, accessible. That's the word I was looking for, accessible. That's the layer that is accessible to us. So it's very important to be able to free up that space, especially, and that's what this third exercise not teaches us. That's what we've just done with a supplementary exercise. But what it improves. The spirally sensation that you'll get, that you might get, I have to say something about that, because when I say spiral, then our brain goes haywire and it thinks, oh, it has to continuously go like that. No, it does not. In the beginning it goes one direction and halfway it goes the other direction, but I still refer to it as a spiral because I have no other word. But that's, so for instance, when I practice this third qigong, in the beginning the spiral will feel like this, and I can totally complete it to the hands. When I go back here, the spiral will feel like this. But when I am at the chest height and it spirals down, it will feel like going the other way. That's not important. That's our brain trying to make sense of sensations. Forget the brain. Thinking is bad. Don't interpret. Just accept and feel. That's in this third exercise. So it is a complicated story, I can imagine. But what you are actually doing is you are, with the Dharma, you are freeing, with the help of the Dharma, you are freeing up that empty space, which is full of stagnations. You're freeing up that empty space between flesh and skin, so that in the fourth exercise, we can perform a type of heavenly orbit, not the heavenly orbit. Like I said, we have to sit and do heavenly and do heavy meditation for weeks, months, years, sitting facing the wall for that. But for us, ordinary common folk, that level between skin and flesh is a really, really good result. So in the third qigong, recapitulate. You get, first of all, you don't move sideways. Well, yes, a little bit because of that mutual rotation. You just fall, that was the physical level, and then you go up, and that makes you fall. So on a physical level, mechanical level, there is this, like if we are a robot, there's all these rotations working together. If we do this properly, then it gives us access to the spirally thing in connection with the fire standing. Please do your fire standing. Don't do it long. Do it as long as you can, but don't practice in order to make it longer. And once you have acquired the capability to sense that free space, especially on the yang side of the body, then don't practice regularly anymore, because the body will get used to it and then it won't have any results anymore. So once you know it, why practice to learn to know it? You have already learned. That's a very important thing. So what was there more? Yes, I talked about how this exercise connects yin and yang. Well, this can be very short. Yin on the inside, yang, the back, and the outside. Actually, you see, it's this position. Not at this position, it's this position. There you rotate. You have yang on the outside. This is connected. It starts to feel like if you hold a ball in between your palms. But this is open as well. If you just stand like that, and this will close up. It really has to open up there. So that is also connecting to that idea of opening up that, to allow that circulation, that heavenly orbit circulation in this skin flesh layer, the soli. So where that you have to balance that yin and yang. It has to maintain a constant. There should be no disconnection. And then there are one thing I have skipped because I immediately went to the spiral. One thing is the field. Well, the field experience is very important because, again, it allows the spiral. What do you do with the field experience? Well, you might remember that you sit on your legs, you feel like holding a ball, you slightly press outside until you feel that field. Now maintain that sensation while you reshape yourself towards the third exercise. If you do it properly, then it will feel like, well, you know, when you have a balloon round and it's not fully blown up, otherwise if you press it, it will bang. But you have this round balloon, when you press it on the sides, it will lengthen. And that is exactly what you do in this third exercise, field-wise. So here is your entire field. You come out of the second exercise. Now you reshape the field. So the round balloon becomes this linear balloon with that point on that side. And it has to stay and continue to feel like that. So the outside of the arms, the back of the head and the neck. There you go, and it's that entire balloon rotating, spiraling. Because the spiral happens a layer lower than the field. The field on our outside, in this case. The spiral on our inside, in between the empty space of skin and flesh. Good, let's practice. Yes, another question. I got this question last week. How often do you need to practice every qigong? That's a question that you can explain in so many times. First of all, like I previously said, this is a series consisting of actually 18 exercises. That is a lesson. It's just, every statement is a question. Why 18 exercises? Because every exercise has to be performed 18 times. In the old days, they didn't have watches. They didn't have clocks. So how do you make sure that you do something for a certain amount of time? If you count, you get distracted. So how do you count 18 times without actual counting? Well, there's this hand secret. If you ask the average master, then he will say that's a hand mudra. To circulate your energy in a specific way, you will understand later. This is bullshit. You start with your thumb, the tip of your thumb and the tip of your little finger, they connect. That's one. Then you skip the next to the next digit, 2, 3, 4. You change to the ring finger base, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So if you see me practice this qigong with what you're doing with his hands, I'm just counting. So you practice, you start with that first exercise and you go down. There. Now I skip digits. to the next digit. See? There. And I go down. I continue until I have completed full circle, and then next exercise. Yes, so that's about how often do you practice one exercise. Like I said, the 18 wood down is not just 18 exercises. It tells you to practice every exercise 18 times, which is very long, I can assure you. The average that I do in the group or that I've taught you is 2 exercises per 5 minutes. Well, in a relatively slow tempo, that means that, for instance, the first exercise you do 4 to 6 times. Now 3 times as long. Alright, so it'll keep you busy. But that's one thing. The other thing is, with actually the same question, I didn't actually know how to respond because I didn't know how the question was meant. If I can also explain it like, when do I start with the next exercise in my development? Yes, this is a really good question. I can't say after 18 years because, well, that won't really work, of course. And this 18 is not a matter in this at all. But actually, practice the first qigong until you really feel what it is supposed to do. In the meantime, you practice the other qigong as well because you have to diffuse the effect of that specific one qigong. But you over practice, in comparison to the rest, you over practice the first qigong until you feel the yang qi. And now we have practiced the third qigong, which taught us how to work in between the space between flesh and skin. Now we can take that back to the first exercise. So now we know where the yang qi rises. We have to open up. I can't stand like this because now my skin sticks to the flesh. I have to open up until I can release the skin on the yang side of the body and if possible on the yin side of the body as well. But leave that, that's a bit difficult. The yang qi side is already quite nice. What is the yang qi side again? Just the outside of the body. Right? Don't make it more difficult than that. And if you can release the skin and keep it like that. Don't think about the dumai, that's the theory. And later on, when you're really good, then we can work on the dumai. But for now, release the skin, and the yang qi rises in between and through the empty space in between flesh and skin. On the outside and towards the outside, there. So these 2 fingers will get warm the most in the first qigong. Talking about the first exercise, actually talking about the lesson that the third qigong gives us. So, in short, mechanical level, shoulder disc rotation. That means practice it loose so that you actually feel the shoulder disc. Just do some breakdancing. You're on your own anyway now, so who gives a shit? And then try to move in such a manner that you do not feel it, so the body will slightly rotate off center. Now, like a diver, lengthen your sensation awareness. So you go forward until you get the sensation there. And then you just drop. You will fall by itself. It will go uphill. It will follow that entire line through the back there, and then it will fall down there. It will follow the narrow path of the daimai. And you will squeeze it like a tube of toothpaste and set things in motion that should not be set into motion. But for now it's okay because we are freeing up the meridian. We need that because it's the base of our fire. And that's the energetic level, We have to be able to practice fire standing. We have to be able to feel the space, the empty space, at least at the young side of our body. And focus on that. Keep it open. Rotate out. Spiral out towards your hands. Just fall. Gravity makes us fall the other way. How do you start the rotation? There. And then in such a manner that you feel how you spiral down. And it will rotate the other way. And again, allow gravity to give you a swing. Good. So I think, well, we've covered some ground in this exercise. Like I said, I'll leave it at this one exercise, otherwise it will get midnight before we end the fourth. And maybe you have some important stuff to attend to. So I'll leave you here. And thank you for your attention again. It was nice to have you. I hope it's a bit clear. If not, save your questions, please, for the last session way later, where we can have, where I can answer your questions, and we can maybe, by means of chat, we can have some form of discussion. For now, it was nice to have you, and I wish you a good night. So stay safe, stay healthy.